Sharon Martinez was 24 years old, working double shifts at Ruby's Diner in a small Texas town, when she served scrambled eggs and toast to a young soldier in uniform at exactly 7:42 a.m. 20 minutes later, Private Donald Mercer collapsed, seizing violently. The diagnosis? Severe food poisoning. The verdict? Sharon's negligence. By noon, she was in handcuffs. 2 months in county jail, a criminal record that followed her like a shadow. She lost everything: her job, her freedom, her future. 10 years later, everything had gotten worse. Sharon cleaned office buildings for $9 an hour. Her daughter, Emma, age 6, was dying from chronic granulomatous disorder, a rare genetic disease with no cure. 5 months left, the doctor said. Maybe less. Sharon had sold everything, borrowed from everyone, and still couldn't afford the experimental treatments Emma needed. Then 5 soldiers appeared at her workplace, dress uniforms, serious faces, looking for Sharon Martinez, asking for her by name. Her heart stopped. She thought her past had finally come to bury her. But she had no idea that the man she'd supposedly poisoned had become a 4-star general, highest in the U.S. Army, and that event of 10 years ago was about to change her life forever.
If you're finding value in this story, here's the thing: you're part of something bigger. Every subscriber to Lax and Relax helps me justify spending hours researching these incredible, overlooked stories instead of chasing trends. You're voting for depth over clickbait. Subscribe, and let's keep building a community that values real storytelling. Now, let's dive back in.
June 17th, 2014. Ruby's Diner, Clearwater, Texas. Sharon wiped down the counter for the 3rd time that morning. The breakfast rush was over, leaving just 2 customers: old Mr. Henderson nursing his black coffee, and a young soldier in army fatigues sitting in booth 7. She'd noticed him immediately. Maybe 22, fresh-faced, nervous energy. His duffel bag sat on the seat beside him, already packed. She'd seen enough soldiers pass through Clearwater to know the signs. He was shipping out soon. "Morning," Sharon said, pulling out her order pad. "What can I get you?" "Scrambled eggs, wheat toast, bacon crispy," he smiled, "and coffee, lots of coffee." "Heading out?" "Afghanistan. Flight leaves at 2. His voice carried equal parts pride and fear. "Special deployment. Can't really talk about it." Sharon nodded and put in his order. She'd served dozens of soldiers their last stateside breakfast. It always felt sacred somehow, like she was part of their story. The eggs came out perfect. Sharon set the plate in front of him at 7:58 a.m. She'd remember that timestamp forever, because it would be printed on the police report. "Enjoy," she said. "Thank you, ma'am." Sharon was refilling Mr. Henderson's coffee when she heard the sound, a chair scraping violently against linoleum. She turned. The soldier was standing, his face flushed red, one hand clutching his throat. His plate clattered to the floor. "Sir?" Sharon rushed over. "Are you okay?" He tried to speak, but his throat was swelling. His lips were turning blue. "Call 911!" Sharon screamed. Ruby, the diner's owner, was already on the phone. Sharon helped the soldier to the floor as his body started convulsing. His eyes rolled back. "Hold on," Sharon whispered, cradling his head. "Help's coming." The ambulance arrived in 6 minutes. They loaded him onto a gurney, asking questions Sharon couldn't answer. What did he eat? How long ago? Any known allergies? "I don't know. He just ordered breakfast." They took him away, sirens wailing. Sharon stood in the empty diner, the soldier's overturned plate at her feet, scrambled eggs soaking into the floor mat. "Sharon?" Ruby's voice was quiet, deadly quiet. "The police are coming." "What? Why?" "That soldier. They're saying it's food poisoning." Sharon's stomach dropped. No, I cooked everything properly. I'd always... They're saying he might die. 2 hours later, Detective Morris walked into the diner with a warrant. Sharon was arrested for criminal negligence and reckless endangerment of military personnel. She spent that night in a cell, still wearing her grease-stained uniform, unable to comprehend how scrambled eggs had destroyed her entire life. Private Donald Mercer didn't die, but his deployment was canceled, and Sharon's nightmare had only just begun.
The trial lasted 3 days. Sharon couldn't afford a real lawyer, so she got a public defender named Marcus Webb, who looked exhausted before they even started. The prosecution brought in medical experts. Dr. Raymond testified that Private Mercer had suffered acute food poisoning consistent with salmonella contamination. The health inspector found violations at Ruby's diner: a broken thermometer in the walk-in cooler, eggs stored improperly, cross-contamination risks. Sharon sat at the defense table, numb. She'd worked at that diner for 3 years. She knew the kitchen was old, that Ruby cut corners, but she'd always been careful. Always. "Ms. Martinez," the prosecutor said, standing over her like a vulture, "you served Private Mercer eggs that made him violently ill, correct?" "I served him breakfast, yes, but I didn't. And those eggs were stored in a cooler that wasn't maintaining safe temperatures, correct?" "I didn't know the cooler was broken, but you were responsible for food safety." "I was a waitress, not..." "Answer the question. Were you responsible for what you served?" Sharon's voice came out as a whisper. "Yes." Marcus tried. He argued that Sharon had no way of knowing about the cooler malfunction, that Ruby's diner had been cited before for violations, that Sharon was just an employee following procedures. But the jury saw a careless waitress who nearly killed a soldier about to deploy for his country. Guilty. Criminal negligence. The judge gave her 60 days in county jail and 2 years probation. Ruby's diner fired her immediately. Her landlord evicted her for missing rent. Sharon spent 2 months in a 6x8 cell with a woman named Crystal, who was in for check fraud. Crystal was kind enough not to ask questions when Sharon cried herself to sleep every night. When Sharon was released, she had $43 to her name. No job, no apartment, and a criminal record that made her unemployable. Her sister Maya let her sleep on the couch for 3 months, while Sharon applied to 47 jobs: gas stations, fast food, retail. Every application asked, "Have you ever been convicted of a crime?" She checked yes every time. She never got callbacks. Finally, a cleaning company called Spotless Solutions hired her for night shifts. $9 an hour, no benefits, cleaning office buildings after everyone went home. It wasn't much, but it was survival. Sharon moved into a studio apartment on the east side, the kind with bars on the windows and roaches in the walls. She bought a used car for $800 that broke down twice a month. She ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. She sent her mother $50 a month when she could spare it. And every single night, lying on a mattress on the floor, she thought about those scrambled eggs. Had she missed something? Had she been careless? The guilt ate at her like acid. 4 years later, she met Daniel at a laundromat. 6 months after that, she was pregnant. Daniel left when Emma was born. She didn't blame him. She'd already learned that nothing good stayed in her life for long. Emma was born on a Tuesday in March, 6 pounds, 4 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and lungs that screamed with life. Sharon held her daughter in the hospital bed and made a promise. "I will never let anything bad happen to you." For the first 3 years, Sharon kept that promise. Emma was healthy, happy. She had Sharon's eyes and her father's dimples. She loved dinosaurs and insisted on wearing her purple rain boots everywhere, even in summer. Sharon worked nights cleaning offices and slept while Emma napped during the day. Maya helped with babysitting. It was exhausting, barely sustainable, but they managed. Then, when Emma was 3.5, she got sick. It started with a fever that wouldn't break.
Then infections, ear infections, sinus infections, pneumonia twice in 4 months. Emma's immune system was attacking itself. After 6 months of tests, a specialist at Dallas Children's Hospital delivered the diagnosis. Chronic granulomatous disorder, Dr. Patel said gently. It's a rare genetic condition. Emma's white blood cells can't fight off certain bacteria and fungi. Infections that would be minor in other children can be life-threatening for her. Sharon's hands gripped the armrests of her chair. Can you cure it? Dr. Patel's expression gave Sharon her answer before he spoke. There's no cure, Miss Martinez. I'm sorry. Sharon drove home in silence. Emma slept in her car seat, still pale from the latest round of antibiotics. That night, Sharon researched CGD until her eyes burned. Patients died from infections, lung abscesses, liver disease. The average life expectancy was 30 years, but many didn't make it past childhood. She found experimental treatments, gene therapy trials in Boston, stem cell transplants in Germany. All of them cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. All of them were inaccessible to a single mother cleaning offices for $9 an hour. Sharon's insurance, basic Medicaid, covered the medications, barely. But Emma needed more. She needed specialists, procedures, treatments that insurance classified as experimental and refused to cover. Sharon took on extra shifts. She sold her car and took the bus. She moved to a cheaper apartment. She skipped meals. It wasn't enough. By the time Emma turned 6, the infections were getting worse, more frequent, more severe. Dr. Patel's face grew more concerned with each visit. In September, he called Sharon into his office alone. Emma's immune system is deteriorating faster than we anticipated, he said quietly. Without intervention, a stem cell transplant or experimental gene therapy, I don't think she'll make it past next spring. Sharon's world tilted. How long? 5 months, maybe 6. And the treatments you mentioned? The gene therapy trial in Germany is $340,000. Even if we got her accepted, insurance won't cover experimental procedures. Sharon walked out of that office knowing her daughter had a death sentence, and she was powerless to stop it. Present day, November 2024. Sharon was on her knees scrubbing baseboards on the 4th floor of Montgomery & Associates Accounting when she heard voices in the lobby downstairs. It was 9:47 p.m. The building should have been empty except for security. Sharon paused, listening. We're looking for Sharon Martinez, a man's voice said. Firm, official. Her stomach dropped. I'm sorry, we don't have anyone here by that name, the security guard replied. Our records show she's employed here, cleaning staff. Sharon's hands froze on her scrub brush. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She stood slowly, quietly, and moved to the stairwell. From the 4th floor landing, she could see down into the lobby. 5 men in army dress uniforms stood at the security desk, not casual fatigues, full dress blues with medals, ribbons, the kind of uniforms worn for ceremonies and official business. The lead soldier was tall, broad-shouldered, African-American, maybe mid-30s, a lieutenant colonel based on his insignia. Check your employee records, he said to the guard. Sharon Martinez, we need to speak with her. Sharon's breath caught. This was it. 10 years later, and somehow, some way, they'd found her. Maybe new evidence. Maybe Private Mercer had developed complications, sued, wanted her thrown back in jail. She thought of Emma, asleep at Maya's apartment. Emma, who had 4 months and 4 weeks left, according to Dr. Patel's latest estimate. If Sharon went to jail now, Emma would die alone. She couldn't run, couldn't hide. There was nowhere to go. Sharon descended the stairs slowly, her cleaning supplies still in hand. The soldiers saw her before she reached the bottom. Sharon Martinez? The lieutenant colonel asked. Yes, her voice barely carried. That's me. The soldier's expression softened slightly. Ma'am, I'm Lieutenant Colonel James Harper. We need you to come with us. Am I under arrest? No, ma'am, nothing like that. Then what's this about? Harper exchanged glances with the other soldiers. That's not something we can discuss here. There's someone who needs to see you, tonight. Sharon's mind raced.
I have a daughter. She's sick. I can't just... We know about Emma, Harper said gently. This concerns her, too. Sharon's knees nearly buckled. How did they know about Emma? I don't understand. Ma'am, I know this is confusing, but I promise you, you're not in trouble. We just need you to trust us for a few hours. Trust. Sharon almost laughed. She hadn't trusted anyone in 10 years. But these men knew about Emma, and something in Harper's expression wasn't threatening. It was almost respectful. Can I call my sister? Tell her I'll be late picking up Emma. Of course. Take your time. Sharon called Maya with shaking hands, explained that something had come up at work, that she'd be a few hours late. Maya asked questions Sharon couldn't answer. When she hung up, Harper gestured toward the door. We have a car waiting. Sharon followed the 5 soldiers out into the November night, still wearing her cleaning company polo and work boots, with no idea that her life was about to transform in ways she couldn't begin to imagine. They drove for 40 minutes in a black SUV with tinted windows. Sharon sat in the back, sandwiched between 2 soldiers who said nothing. Lieutenant Colonel Harper sat in the front passenger seat, occasionally speaking quietly into a phone. Sharon watched the city give way to highways, then to gates and checkpoints. Fort Hood. She recognized the entrance even though she'd never been inside. The largest active-duty military installation in the world, and they were bringing her here at 10:30 at night. Security waved them through multiple checkpoints without inspection. Whatever this was, it had been prearranged. They parked in front of an administrative building, 3 stories, lights on and several windows despite the hour. Harper opened Sharon's door. This way, ma'am. Inside, the building was immaculate. Polished floors, portraits of military leaders on the walls, flags in the corners. They walked down the long corridor to an elevator, top floor. When the doors opened, Sharon found herself in a reception area that looked like it belonged to a corporate executive, not a military base. Leather furniture, a receptionist desk, currently empty, and a large wooden door with a plaque, General D. Mercer commanding. Sharon's blood turned to ice. Mercer. The soldier, Primate Donald Mercer, who she'd served scrambled eggs 10 years ago, who'd collapsed, who'd ruined her life. I can't, Sharon said, backing toward the elevator. I can't do this. Lieutenant Colonel Harper stepped in front of the elevator buttons. Miss Martinez, I know you're scared, but General Mercer asked specifically to see you. He's not here to hurt you. He already hurt me. Her voice broke. I went to jail because of him. I lost everything. I know. He knows. That's why you're here. The large wooden door opened. A woman in uniform stepped out. A captain, young, professional. Ms. Martinez, the general is ready for you. Sharon's legs felt like water, but she thought of Emma. If this had anything to do with Emma, she had to face it. She walked through the door. The office was large but not ostentatious. A desk, bookshelves lined with military manuals and leadership books, a wall of commendations and photos, and standing by the window, hands clasped behind his back, was a man in a 4-star general's uniform. He turned when she entered. Sharon's breath caught. She recognized him immediately, even though he was older, broader, more weathered. The same face that had convulsed on her diner floor 10 years ago. The same face she'd seen in nightmares for 10 years. Miss Martinez, General Donald Mercer said quietly, thank you for coming. Sharon couldn't speak. Please, sit. He gestured to a chair facing his desk. She sat because her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. Mercer sat across from her, his expression grave but gentle. He studied her face for a long moment. I owe you an apology and an explanation. 10 years ago, you were wrongfully convicted of a crime you didn't commit. And I need you to know that everything that happened to you, it's haunted me every day since. Sharon's hands gripped the armrests. Then why didn't you stop it? Because I didn't know. Not until it was too late. General Mercer stood and walked to his desk, pulling out a file. He placed it in front of Sharon. After I was released from the hospital in 2014, I was immediately debriefed by Army intelligence. Standard procedure for any soldier experiencing a medical emergency before deployment. He opened the file. The initial diagnosis was food poisoning. That's what went into the report. That's what the civilian authorities used to prosecute you. Sharon stared at the papers, medical records filled with terminology she didn't understand. But 3 weeks later, Mercer continued, my unit's medical officer ordered additional testing. He was concerned about deploying me if there was an underlying condition. He pulled out another page, highlighted in yellow. The results came back definitive. Severe allergic reaction to sulfites, not food poisoning. Sharon's eyes widened. What? Sulfites are preservatives. They're in bacon, processed foods, wine. I'd never had a reaction before because I'd never consumed enough at once. Mercer's jaw tightened. But that morning, I'd taken a new medication for anxiety about deployment. It amplified my sensitivity. The bacon you served me triggered anaphylaxis. Then, I didn't poison you? No, Ms. Martinez, you didn't. It was an allergic reaction, completely unforeseeable. By the time the medical officer filed his report with the Army, your trial was already over. You'd already been convicted. Sharon's world tilted. 10 years. 10 years of guilt, shame, of believing she'd been careless. Why didn't anyone tell me? Why didn't anyone fix it? I tried. Mercer's expression darkened. When I found out, I contacted the district attorney's office in Clearwater. I provided the medical evidence, but the DA refused to reopen the case, said you'd already served your sentence, and new evidence showing it was an allergic reaction instead of food poisoning didn't change the fact that the diner had health code violations. Sharon felt like she was drowning. So you knew. For 10 years you knew I was innocent, and you did nothing? I did everything I could within civilian channels. Mercer leaned forward. But I was a young officer with no influence. The DA didn't care about justice. He cared about his conviction rate. So why am I here now? Sharon's anger was rising, cutting through her fear. Why drag me here to tell me what you should have told me a decade ago? Mercer's expression shifted. Something deeper, more painful. Because that allergic reaction saved my life, he said quietly. Sharon froze. I was supposed to deploy to Afghanistan that afternoon, a covert operation, deep insertion into hostile territory. My entire team, 12 men, went without me. They were ambushed 18 hours after insertion. Everyone killed, not a single survivor. The silence in the room was deafening. If I'd been on that flight, I'd be dead. Your crime kept me stateside, kept me alive. He met her eyes. I became a general because you went to jail for something you didn't do. And now, I'm here to make that right.
Sharon couldn't process what she was hearing. Her brain kept looping back to one word, innocent. She'd been innocent all along. I don't understand what you want from me, she said finally. Mercer returned to his desk and pulled out another file. This one was thicker, marked with red classified stamps. 6 months ago, I led a NATO joint task force in Germany. Part of the mission involved liaising with a research hospital in Munich, specializing in rare genetic disorders. He opened the file. They've developed a revolutionary treatment for chronic granulomatous disorder, gene therapy combined with modified stem cell transplantation. It's not approved in the U.S. yet, still in trials, but the success rate in Germany is 87%. Sharon's heart stopped. Emma. When I learned about your daughter's diagnosis, how did you learn about Emma? I've been looking for you for 3 years, Miss Martinez. When I finally located you last month, I did my due diligence. I needed to know how your life had turned out after the injustice I'd inadvertently caused. His expression softened. I learned about Emma, about her condition, about the timeline Dr. Patel gave you. Tears burned Sharon's eyes. Are you telling me there's a treatment that could save her? Yes. And I'm telling you that I've already made the arrangements.
Mercer pulled out another document. Emma has been accepted into the treatment program at Munich University Hospital. All expenses covered. Travel, treatment, housing, everything. She leaves in 2 weeks. Sharon couldn't breathe. Why would you do this? Mercer's professional composure cracked. For the first time, Sharon saw the grief underneath. 5 years ago, my daughter Sophia was diagnosed with the same condition. She was 7. My wife and I tried everything, every treatment, every trial. We had the resources, the connections, the best medical care in the world. His voice broke. She died 3 weeks before her 9th birthday. The treatments available in the U.S. weren't enough. Sharon's anger dissolved into something else, shared grief. 6 months after Sophia died, I was assigned to that mission in Germany. When I visited the research hospital, I learned about their gene therapy program. I stood in that lab and realized that if this treatment had been available 2 years earlier, my daughter would still be alive. Mercer's hands were shaking now. I can't bring Sophia back. But when I learned that the woman's life I destroyed has a daughter dying from the same disease that killed mine, he looked directly at Sharon. I can save Emma. I can't fix what happened to you 10 years ago. The DA won't reopen your case, and I can't erase your record. But I can give your daughter a chance at life, and maybe, in some small way, that honors Sophia's memory. Sharon was crying now, unable to stop. I don't deserve this, she whispered. You deserved justice 10 years ago, Mercer replied. You didn't get it, but you're getting this. Emma's getting this. He extended his hand across the desk. Will you let me help your daughter, Miss Martinez? Sharon took his hand. Yes.
3 months later, Munich, Germany. Emma sat in a hospital bed, pale but smiling, her purple rain boots on the floor beside her. She'd insisted on bringing them across the Atlantic. Sharon sat beside her, holding her hand, watching the IV drip that carried modified stem cells into her daughter's bloodstream, the third and final treatment. Dr. Schneider, the lead researcher, said Emma's body was accepting the therapy better than expected. Mama, when can we go back to Texas? Emma asked. Soon, baby. A few more weeks. Will we see the general again? Sharon smiled. Yes. He promised to visit when we get home. General Mercer had flown to Munich twice during Emma's treatment. The first time, he'd brought Sophia's favorite book, The Little Prince, and read it to Emma while Sharon cried quietly in the hallway. The second time, he'd brought news. The Army's Judge Advocate General had reviewed Sharon's case. While they couldn't overturn the civilian conviction, they'd issued an official letter stating that new evidence proved the incident was an allergic reaction, not negligence. It wasn't an exoneration, but it was acknowledgement. More importantly, Mercer had helped Sharon find a lawyer who specialized in wrongful convictions. They were filing for post-conviction relief. It would take time, but there was hope. Sharon had also accepted Mercer's offer of a position as a patient advocate liaison for a new foundation he'd established, the Sophia Mercer Foundation for Rare Disease Research. Her job would be helping other families navigate the impossible systems she'd survived. Salary, $65,000 a year, benefits included. For the first time in 10 years, Sharon could breathe. Dr. Schneider entered the room, chart in hand, smiling. Good news, he said. Emma's latest blood work shows her immune system is responding exactly as we hoped. The modified cells are producing healthy antibodies. If this trajectory continues, she'll be in full remission within 6 months. Sharon covered her mouth, sobbing. Emma squeezed her mother's hand. Does that mean I won't be sick anymore? It means you're going to be okay, sweetheart. You're going to be okay. 6 months later, Fort Hood, Texas.
Sharon stood beside General Mercer at the dedication ceremony for the Sophia Mercer Foundation headquarters. Reporters, military officials, and families affected by rare diseases filled the courtyard. Emma, healthy and vibrant, stood beside them in her purple rain boots, holding a ceremonial ribbon. "Today," Mercer said into the microphone, "we honor every person who suffered because our systems failed them. We commit to doing better, to seeing people, not paperwork, to choosing mercy over bureaucracy." He looked at Sharon. "And we remember that one act of injustice can destroy a life, but one act of redemption can save two." Emma cut the ribbon. The crowd applauded. Sharon closed her eyes and felt, for the first time in a decade, something she'd forgotten existed. Peace.
Sharon Martinez was wrongly convicted of a crime she didn't commit. She lost her job, her freedom, and 10 years of her life carrying guilt that was never hers to bear. But that injustice, that terrible wrong, inadvertently saved the life of the man who would later save her daughter. General Donald Mercer couldn't undo what happened to Sharon. He couldn't erase her criminal record or give her back the decades she lost. But he could honor the debt he owed, not because the law required it, but because his conscience demanded it. Today, Emma is thriving. Sharon works as a patient advocate, helping other families trapped in systems that fail them. And General Mercer continues leading the Sophia Mercer Foundation, funding research for rare diseases and advocating for veterans and civilians alike who fall through bureaucratic cracks. Their story reminds us of 3 truths. Justice delayed is justice denied, but redemption is never too late. The systems that destroy lives can be transformed by people willing to fight for what's right. And sometimes the very thing that breaks us becomes the bridge to healing someone else. What about you? Have you or someone you love been wronged by a system that refused to listen? Have you witnessed an injustice that still haunts you? Share your story in the comments. Your voice matters. Your truth deserves to be heard. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that hope can survive even a decade of darkness, hit that like button and subscribe.
And that's the end of this story. Kindly tell me which country you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Your comments actually shape what stories I cover next, so let me know what hit hardest for you in this story. Every like and subscribe pushes these forgotten stories to people who need to hear them. If that matters to you, you know what to do. More stories coming soon. Stay blessed.